You want to know how to actually build an aesthetic body, to know how you could possibly go from this to this. In this video, I will show you the necessary steps to achieve your dream physique. Throughout years of my own journey, through hours upon hours of research, and through many mistakes I made along the way, I gathered the knowledge I'll share with you today. During this video, I will go over the main muscle groups you should be prioritizing in your training. I will focus on 6 main muscle groups, and during the video I will talk about a muscle group many people forget that is crucial to looking aesthetic. I'll also outline the key technical things to get you looking as aesthetic as possible, as fast as possible, at the end of this video. The first thing you should do is to decide how you want to train. You have 2 real options here. You can decide between weightlifting or calisthenics. I would personally recommend weightlifting if you want to build as much muscle in as little time as possible. And this is primarily because of 2 things. The first is the simplicity of the exercises, and the second is the ability to easily progressively overload the exercises. While calisthenics can also be effective, for beginners I would definitely recommend weightlifting. First, let's talk about the most important muscle to achieve that aesthetic body shape, the shoulders. The shoulder muscle is split into 3 major heads: the anterior, the lateral, and the posterior. To get the most width to achieve that aesthetic body shape, we'll be focusing on the lateral delt. The most essential exercise to get wide shoulders is the lateral raise. I would suggest doing them with dumbbells, but the cable or the machine variations are just as good. And for the best results, combine them. I also highly recommend doing the overhead press that emphasizes the anterior delt, but it also hits the lateral delt and the triceps pretty well. The overhead press is an amazing exercise because it develops core strength while also developing the shoulders and the arms. Moving on to the second muscle group, we have the abs. They are one of the most important elements to an aesthetic, model-like physique. If you can't see your abs, you should go into a caloric deficit and lose enough fat for your abs to show. And after you are lean enough, you can go into the second phase of getting six-pack abs, the training. To make your abs more prominent and to make them pop, you need to train them directly, just like any other muscle. You need to focus on exercises like leg raises and the classic ab crunch. You also shouldn't forget you need to progressively overload these exercises like any other. Moving on to the third muscle group, we have arms and forearms. They are probably the most important muscle group to look jacked in t-shirts. So, the first question is, how can we get the most out of our arm training? We can do this by focusing on the tricep. They are the most important muscle for the overall arm size, since they take up 2/3 of the upper arm. When it comes to training the tricep, any kind of pushdown variation will do the trick. My favorites are any kind of pushdown on the cable machine, be it with the rope, the V-bar or the straight bar, and the skull crusher. Your triceps will also get a lot of stimulation during your compound movements, like the bench press or the previously mentioned overhead press. Moving on to biceps, any kind of curling movement will do. I recommend the classic dumbbell curl or the barbell version. I would also recommend throwing in the incline dumbbell curl for its emphasis on the deep stretch of the bicep. Lastly, you'll also want to focus on your forearms, since they are probably the most exposed muscle group while wearing any kind of shirt. Although they will get stimulated during your general back and bicep training, you will also want to throw in some direct work, like the forearm curl. Next up is the back. One of the most important steps in building an aesthetic physique is achieving that elusive V-taper body shape. The most important contributor to that shape, aside from the shoulders, are definitely the lats. To train the lats effectively, as a beginner, I would recommend the lat pull-down, with the intent to transition to weighted pull-ups once you become strong enough. I would also recommend doing lat pullovers or single-arm lat pull-downs, both on the cable machine, to hammer the lats even further. We also can't forget about the muscles of the middle and the upper back, the most prominent one being the trapezius, followed by the infraspinatus and the teres major. To hit these muscles effectively, I would recommend doing any rowing movement in horizontal plane, be it with a barbell bent over row or a chest-supported mid-back row on the machine. With these exercises, you will achieve that V-taper body shape and a crazy demon back. Since we're already talking about the traps, I should also mention one of the most important muscles to appear jacked in clothing, the neck. Although many people forget about it, the neck is one of the most important contributors to achieving a truly masculine physique. To train the neck, you must do a combination of neck curls and neck extensions. Start off by doing repetitions with the weight of your own head, and once you feel comfortable enough, add some weight. If you feel any discomfort in your spine during or after these exercises, I would recommend stopping and reducing the load. Moving on to one of my favorite muscle groups to train, it's the chest. To truly achieve that superhero Greek god physique, you must develop a great chest to get that armor-plating look. If you are strictly focused on aesthetics, I would recommend doing a barbell or dumbbell incline bench since it focuses on the most important part of the chest for aesthetics, the upper chest, while also providing great stimulus to the rest of the muscle. I also tend to add 5 movements on the cable or the machine to my chest days to hammer the chest even further. Now that you've built an impressive looking upper body, your skinny legs make you look pathetic. To build impressive looking legs, you must focus on your quads first and then your hamstrings, along with your glutes and your calves. To hit the quads most effectively, you must do a squat variation. You can choose between the classic barbell squat, Smith machine squat, or even the Bulgarian split squat if you want to suffer. I would also recommend doing the leg extensions along with the squat of your choice. As for the hamstrings, I would recommend doing Romanian deadlifts along with leg curls. When it comes to the calves, doing a single variation of a calf raise should be enough to simulate their growth, since their size is primarily decided by genetics and the length of your tendon, and of course, if you were fat as a kid, you will have big calves by default. For the end of this video, I would like to give you some technical tips that will help you achieve your aesthetic body as fast as possible. Firstly, if you are starting out as skinny or skinny fat, you should go into lean bulk from the start to build as much muscle tissue as possible while gaining as little fat as possible. This means that you should be in a 200-ish caloric surplus, which will provide you with the necessary energy to build muscle while not being stored as too much extra fat. If you are starting out as fat, you already have all the necessary energy, so you should go into a cutting phase, which means a 250 to 500 calorie deficit depending on your body weight. The second tip is to train every muscle on this list at least 2 times per week with at least 48 hours between them to let them recover. Some muscles, like the lateral delt or the calves, can be trained several times per week since they recover very fast. The last and the probably most important tip is to progressively overload your exercises. This means that every week that goes by, you should be adding more weight or more repetitions to your exercises. This will provide more challenge to your muscle, forcing them to grow even further. That being said, all of the steps described in this video will be worthless if you refuse to be consistent. Consistency is the most important ingredient in building an aesthetic body. If you diligently follow all the steps described in this video and refuse to give up, you are guaranteed an aesthetic physique worthy of attention and respect. One day or day one, you decide.